Hi, and welcome to another edition of Audiobook Theater Live. My name is Jeffrey Kafer, and today I'm going to be doing the actual audiobook recording session for Locke and Key, written by best-selling author Cristin Harber. This is the next in the series of Titan Group, a military romance series. A lot of fun, super well written, so gonna dive right in. Locke had kept his eyes on Cassidy the entire time Brock piloted their chopper through the storm. The woman was fearless. Maybe tired, but fearless. They landed in a place where Titan had a jet fueled and waiting to take them home. And all that time he hadn't lost sight of Cassidy. Until now. The team hit the bathrooms at the private airport to change from the Arctic camo to normal clothes that they'd fly in. One by one, they headed to the waiting jet. Locke was the last one on, taking a phone call with Parker about an old job in Chicago. Soon as Locke wrapped, he hustled to the private jet and bounded up the stairs. It wasn't often he had flown in a Learjet, and he was ready to relax. The lights were dim, and everyone was conking out already. He'd be asleep as soon as he searched out a seat. Roman and Cash were already sleeping on 2 sets of couches, and Rocco had clearly set up shop at the table and chair, though he was nowhere to be seen. Bishop had his feet up on the seat across while talking to Alex. Bishop had his feet up on the seat across while talking to Alex, and Jax was passed out and had his shit all over the seat next to him. Fucking hell. Locke rounded a partition as Rocco came around. Sit down and make nice. His team leader's usually even brown eyes were bloodshot and exhausted. Hell, they were all tired. Roger that. Make no trouble for her. Her? Locke's eyes tracked over Rocco's shoulder. Damn it. Last seat available was next to Cassidy. Boss, there's bullshit history there, and I don't think it's... Are you gonna cause a problem? Rocco growled, exhaustion adding grit to the question. Damn it. No. With a nod that might as well have been, you wouldn't dare, Rocco walked past the partition and settled into the desk and chair far away from Cassidy that Locke would have sold his truck to trade for. This was going to be awkward, but with his every muscle aching and half the team snoring already, he planned to be lights out before Cassidy Noble said 2 words to him. Locke grabbed an army sweatshirt and stowed his go bag in a bin nearby. The sweatshirt could be anything. A pillow, a blindfold, another partition if he needed to block the view of his red-haired enemy. Without the protection of the death storm and the dark belly of the chopper, Locke couldn't avoid the vibrant, though exhausted, sparkle of the woman he'd last seen in Iraq. Cassidy was curled in her seat with a book in her lap, toying with a pile of dark red hair knotted on top of her head. The plane's interior light showed an almost hidden smattering of freckles and her blue-green eyes. There were valid reasons why she had done well as a television correspondent in the desert. Even in hellacious conditions, she could still look camera-ready. Joining you, he mumbled and lumbered into the luxury seat. Aircraft confines and comfort weren't made for men like him, and already the space between seemed too intimate. Add supple leather and this felt too close for comfort. He'd kill Rocco for the forced seat assignment. Hell, he'd kill the whole team. Her slight chin upturned and long eyelashes blinked in recognition of him standing there. I'm sorry I upset you, she whispered. Not upset. Gee, she smirked away the whisper. Fooled me. I would have thought your buddy Alex would sit with you. Too much time together. She rubbed her thumb over the corner of a paperback book. Maybe I just have that effect on men I work with overseas. He frowned. Maybe. Don't be a jerk, Locke. I don't see you winning awards for attitude and compassion. Great. A lecture. Somehow words of wisdom about how to behave didn't seem appropriate coming from this woman. Don't care anyway. We should hash out, I'm asleep, Cassidy. I'm willing to have a conversation about it. Nope. Not going to happen. Especially surrounded by his team. Stuck in a tin tube with his nightmare for hours on end? No. Locke grumbled, balled the sweatshirt into... Nightmare for hours on end? No. Locke grumbled, balled the sweatshirt into a pillow, and closed his eyes. Right. I'm asleep too, Captain Avoidance. So much for talking it out. Again? Talking it out. Did Cassidy want to fight on an airplane? Really? They could talk out the loss of life, maybe hold hands and chant their way to inner peace. The loudspeaker crackled once, and a real captain came on. It's a short runway and a long trip. Buckle in and go to sleep. We'll be wheels up before you know it. How the hell was he going to sleep sitting next to? Locke stole a glance out of the corner of his eye, and Cassidy was dead out. Her pink lips parted and she leaned against the wall, oblivious to the world. Dreaming she didn't look like the devil or seem like someone who had enough venom in her to destroy an... Oblivious to the world. Dreaming she didn't look like the devil or seem like someone who had enough venom in her to destroy an army unit. With her thick red hair knotted high, some pieces had fallen free, covering part of her face. He could see her allure. Her book slid off her lap and landed cover side up. It was not what he'd have guessed she'd picked for a leisure read. Then again, he didn't know a thing about Cassidy Noble. Shadows of Truth. His eyebrows rose as he focused on the subheading, Reality's Fight for Freedom. Scowling to himself, he mulled over her choice of reading material and the fact that she'd fought to tell him something in the snow shack from hell, and even just before she fell asleep. Their aircraft launched into the air. She didn't stir, only shifted, sliding her weight from one side of the seat to the other, toward him. And she slouched, piled against him, asleep and unaware, and damn his manners and the soft purr of her dreamy relaxation as she nuzzled against his shoulder, and he went ramrod straight. Paralysis had taken over, and it seemed his biceps had coaxed her into falling further into sleep. Cassidy was the cause of his tormented, sleepless nights, and he wanted to shake her awake, but he couldn't rip his shoulder away. He had a reputation as a man of few words with a shoulder to lean on. Interesting that the one person he hated was literally taking advantage of that shoulder, and after he had given her too many words and not listened at all. Locke tucked the army sweatshirt under her neck as a barrier, and she looped her arm up and snaked around the new pillow, latching onto his forearm in the process. No, Cassidy, he whispered, failing to extract himself. Don't do that. She sighed and pouted in a deep sleep. Whoa, that was quite the face. But he wouldn't fall for it. She'd be lethal with that pout, those lips, and that hair if she had half an idea the effect they had. Not cool, woman. This time he'd get out of her grip even if he woke her up. Locke held his breath and tugged his arm. His face scrunched, but finally he was free. Quickly he looked around. No one had been watching. Jesus. He shook his arm, smoothing out his shirt, and the warmth of her touch dissipated. The idea that Cassidy had been wrapped around him was absurd. She's a snake. He'd never forget the night of fire and the deaths of the men who were like his brothers. Locke rubbed his arm, then scrubbed his face with both hands, trying to fight the confusion and the memories and maybe have a normal flight's worth of sleep. She stirred, but she didn't look evil. No horns hiding, no whiptail curled beside her. He needed to remember all women looked pleasant when they slept. The sweet, sighing lady next to him was nothing but a trap. And there you have it. That's Locke and Key, written by Cristin Harber, narrated by myself, coming soon to Audible. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time on Audiobook Theater Live.